You need a goal. And that goal needs to be two things. Exciting, meaning you just like it. There is something about it that you find motivational, exciting, whatever. And then the other part is it needs to be honorable. Now, honorable means that it elevates not only yourself, but other people. The reason those two things are the guaranteed 1-2 punch of success is getting motivated is all about managing your neurochemistry. It's about knowing how you want to feel, figuring out the things that make you feel that way, making sure that that feeling is incredibly elevated so that you really chase after that feeling. The reason that people do drugs is to modulate their neurochemistry. Now, the great news is that you can modulate your neurochemistry without needing to do drugs, but it requires you to invest emotionally in things that matter to you. Now, the number one problem I see when people are procrastinating is they are not very excited by their goal. You have to take the time, one, to figure out what it is that you like. What are the things that you respond to? Kevin Kelly has a really fascinating idea that he calls not prematurely optimizing. You don't want to prematurely optimize. You don't want to pick a life path until you've explored and understand what the things are that you get a natural response from. Now, it's just going to be some degree of like. I like this thing. It isn't going to be, oh my God, the heavens open up and it becomes clear what I should be doing with my life. It is way simpler than that. It is something that gives you more energy than it takes. Now, once you find the thing that gives you more energy than it takes, now we can begin investing in that. And we go back to that initial idea of I'm excited by my goal, which is very clear. I know exactly what I'm trying to accomplish, and it's honorable. Now, when you're doing something that elevates other people, you get in a positive feedback loop, because what happens is you work hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to move towards this goal that's exciting and honorable. And then you start getting feedback from people because achieving your goal, even pursuing your goal, is helping other people. By helping other people, you get positive feedback. Because you're getting that positive feedback, the next time you want to lay on the couch, you need only think of them and the way that it makes you feel to help people, to elevate, to push yourself to go and get something done. Then you want to put rules into your life so that you don't end up wasting time, so that you catch yourself. The reason that I don't ever find myself just laying around is because I have a rule. Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out. I've been very careful to make sure that the things that I'm working on are moving me towards that goal that's incredibly exciting and honorable. So I'm getting all the feedback from people by getting good at this thing and adding value to their lives. And it was already exciting. I just found it interesting in and of itself. And then I have invested emotionally over and over and over, focusing on the people that I'm trying to help, telling myself I'm trying to help these people, telling other people, embodying the emotion that I want to feel. And then I've got my rules to fall back on. I get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out. And those two rules, as deceptively simple as they are, when combined with a goal that excites me, and then the feedback loop of actually being able to help other people, creates this thing where I get so much juice out of it. Now, you're gonna have different rules. Maybe for you, it isn't that Monday through Friday, you're either working or working out. Maybe it's Monday through Friday. If you're awake, you're either spending time with your family or you're working or working out, whatever. Like, you're gonna make different allowances for the things that matter in your life. But as long as you're doing those things in their order of how you value them in your life, like you might say, Monday through Friday, if it's between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., I'm working. If it's between the hours of 5:01 and my bedtime, I'm spending it with family. Rad. Now you've optimized your life for the things that matter to you. You don't need to try to match my rules. You just need to know your value system and put it in order, build rules that allow you to actually accomplish that. And then hold yourself accountable. And if you're still not doing it, at some point we have to own that you just don't want it badly enough. And then we have to refocus on desire. Is there something that interests you enough that you can work that loop of creating that emotional connection in your life? And then that's where to start.
Need motivation? Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Tom Bilyeu, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, do the hard things.
You're having a biological experience. Nature has those two levers, pleasure and pain. I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, well, as long as I don't do things that create a problem, I don't do bad things, I'll be fine. What could possibly be wrong with sitting around in my apartment all day, goofing off, watching TV, playing video games, all that stuff, all individually wonderful. But when you put it together, suddenly it does not give you the life that you want, and you start to feel dis-ease. You don't feel good. Something's not right. Something's off. I don't know why I don't feel good. And then, by the way, you're probably eating terrible food. And each bite individually is amazing, but it adds up to inflammation, dysbiosis, meaning your gut bacteria, your microbiome is out of whack, and it's sending signals to your brain that alter your brain chemistry and make you not feel good. Something isn't right. But why don't I feel good? I'm doing things that are awesome. This food is awesome. Playing video games is awesome. Relaxing, awesome. Reading a book, awesome. But life in total, not awesome. And how is that possible? Because nature has implanted directives in your brain to ensure that you work hard, because you grew up on the plains of the savannah, and life was hard, and life was scary. And if you weren't a part of the group, you were going to get eaten by something, you were going to die of exposure, you weren't going to make it. And so nature, by way of natural selection, has made it extremely pleasurable to work really hard to gain a set of skills that are unique and exciting to you, that allow you to serve not only yourself, but the group, makes that really feel good, even though it's hard, even though each step of that way is difficult. And yet it adds up to something extraordinary. Okay? It is the most counterintuitive, weird thing in the world, that if you do all of the individual things that are fun, it ends up where you feel like crap. And if you do individually all of the things that are hard and a struggle and are difficult, you end up feeling awesome. That's a reality of life. So I knew that. So even as I became successful, I never thought, hey, why don't we just retire? It won't work. It won't work, meaning work, because I won't be able to feel the way that I want to feel. I want to feel good about myself. I want to make progress in my life. I want to feel like I'm contributing. I know all of that because I understand how the brain works. I understand how nature embeds these directives in your brain, and it isn't enough to not do something bad. You have to be pursuing something that matters, meaning, purpose. That's it. That's the game. It isn't success. It isn't wealth. It isn't adoration. It's not trophies. It's not goals. It's nothing other than fulfillment. And fulfillment is work really hard. Okay? If it comes easy, it won't work. Work really hard to gain a set of skills that you care about, that matter to you. Don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Skill set that matters to you. And that skill set could be playing video games. That could be how you're going to reach and touch the world and elevate people and show them what's possible and entertain them. Absolutely great. You're doing something for other people. But you work real hard to gain a set of skills that matter to you, that are exciting to you. But they don't just serve you, they serve other people as well.
Rule number 3, aim for self-fulfillment.
In life, there are two ways to lose. Way number one is to be weak, to lack grit, to be emotionally unstable, to be stubborn. That's where a lot of people fall on their face. They have these ideas in their head, and they're constantly looking for things to affirm that instead of doing what they need to do, which is constantly looking for ways that you're wrong. And once you start seeking out ways that you're wrong, because you're like, I've gotten this far in life being wrong, what happens if I stop being stubborn? I start looking for ways that I can learn more, that I can get rid of old ideas that aren't working for me and really move forward. And the thing that I think is probably the most foundational, they have a fixed mindset. Now, what is a fixed mindset? It means that you believe your talent and intelligence are inborn traits. You're born with it, and that's it. And life is about making the best of that, and we're going to debunk the shit out of that. The second way that things can go wrong is they're chasing the wrong thing. I'm telling you right now, the punchline to life is not success, it's not fame, it's not money, it's not accolades. It is very simple. It's brain chemistry, aka fulfillment. The only thing that really matters at the end of the day is how you feel about yourself when you are by yourself.
Rule number 4, develop discipline.
Discipline. Now, we're not doing discipline because our parents tell us to. We're doing discipline as a test to see if it works to get us towards our goal. Now, If you have historically struggled with putting discipline in place in your life, right now you're going to say, but Tom, I can't stick to discipline. So why would this work this time? That's when we realize one fundamental truth. This is a desire problem, masquerading as a discipline problem. Once you want your goal, the way that a drowning man wants his next breath, you will find discipline very easy to stick to. And so learning to build your desire for the goal that you have set for yourself, that becomes the incredibly important part. And the way to dial that desire up is to do a loop. And it goes like this. You're going to tell yourself that you're very excited about this goal. You're going to tell other people that you're very excited about this goal. And then you're going to embody the feeling, the amplitude that you want to feel when you think about that goal. Now, there's a mechanism in the human mind where it will justify the way that you act, no matter what. I won't waste time explaining some of the studies, but they are utterly fascinating about how even people with damaged areas of the brain will end up making up random ass stories because the brain abhors a lack of reason. So the brain will always and forever make up some story about why you're doing what you're doing. And so if you're responding hugely to something, oh my God, I'm so excited about doing this thing. Like I'm really amped up about it. And you're saying that to yourself and you're saying it to other people and you're saying it just like that. Then the brain goes, there must really be something here. We've got this elevated level of emotion. Amazing. Let's leverage that. And the brain doesn't say, let's leverage that. But the brain will say, okay, we've got this elevated level. You're going to leverage the fact that the brain says that to repeat it, to reinforce. And over time, you actually just will feel that heightened level of emotion. It's the way the brain works. What you repeat, you become. Neurons that fire together, wire together, things that you do frequently, including embodying that amplitude of emotion, right? Lisa Feldman Barrett's book, How Emotions Are Made, talks about how it starts with the body and then the brain applies meaning to it. So if you're getting amped up, you're excited, the body is saying to the brain, yo, like we're amped, we're excited, we're doing these things. And the brain goes, oh, amazing. It must be because this really matters. And once you get the brain saying, hey, we're this excited because it matters, you're firing those neurons together, the excitement around this thing. So the excitement and the pursuit of that thing begin to mesh. And now we just over time have an actual desire to pull this off. Once we have the actual desire to pull this off, then all of a sudden putting that discipline in place becomes very easy. And that's the name of the game. You want to make it such that you want it badly enough that the discipline becomes easy to stick to because it's going to move you towards that thing that you really want. But you've got to learn to want that thing. Now, I'll give my typical disclaimer. This trick works incredibly well. Now, it only works on things you actually have a legitimate interest in. You couldn't get yourself excited about something that you truly just find stupid, but something where you actually do get a natural response. You actually are naturally into that thing. All we're doing is dialing it up, right? So if it's already a dial tone, there's nothing you can do to change the amplitude. But if the amplitude is already there and you get this reaction, we can really exaggerate that reaction and build that desire to get where we're going. Now, since that is the case, you need to be very careful what you apply this to because you can end up really wanting some stupid shit. I know from experience. I dialed the dial on my desire for money. I cranked that shit to a 20 and then spent 8.5 years pursuing money only to come out completely miserable. So don't waste your time dialing that up on something that isn't exciting and honorable. Meaning, again, honorable, it elevates you and other people, not just you. All right. Be careful what you decide to want, but know that it's very powerful.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, regain your focus.
What steps can I take to bring my focus to the one thing I'm working on while blocking out all else? All right. So the real key is you've got to learn to compartmentalize. So what I do to begin my compartmentalization is I create a list of all the important things that I should be working on. I put that list in order. This is very important. Getting good at prioritizing is an art form. It is critically important that you get good at that art form. And as you begin to break things down and put them in order, now you can tell yourself, hey, this is what I should be working on right now. So rather than trying to digest all the different things that have to be done, it's I'm focused on this one thing right now. And my only job right now is to focus on that thing. And so by not letting your mind wander, and this meditation is very good at bringing your focus back to the breath, which teaches you to bring your focus back to whatever. So I've got a lot of things, many things competing for my attention, but I know what my important things are. I'm working on the number one thing right now, let's say. And so this is my entire world. And if I find myself wandering, I bring myself back. Now, part of the reason that I can invest so heavily in that is because I have the belief that that's the most effective way to work. So since behaviors follow beliefs, you want to make sure that you put that belief in place, which is true, by the way, that you can do everything that you want to do, just not all of it at once. So everything has to be done sequentially. You can't do everything at the same time. And this is why you have to prioritize things out. So if we know that multitasking is actually a myth and that you can put people in brain scanners and what you're seeing, people who seem like they can multitask, what they're doing is called rapid switching. So they don't have what I have, which is high switching costs. When I get in a flow, man, I can go and go and go. But if I try to bounce back and forth between things, then I pay this high price and inefficiency between the switching costs of moving from switching from that task to this task. So I focus, I stay on one thing, I have them in order, I know what I'm working on, I remind myself that I only have one job in that moment, that is to work on that thing. I know that that's the most efficient way to work, and I know that I'm good at prioritizing things, so it becomes very easy, boom, boom, boom. And then you just hold yourself accountable to actually doing that. Practice makes perfect. You might have a difficult time in the beginning. Start meditating if you need to train yourself to come back to the breath over and over and over, and then you can just apply that to whatever you're working on. Come back to the project.
Rule number 6, become self-aware.
How do you know when it's time to refuel and choose self-care instead of continuing to grind? Physiological self-awareness is critical. I hear a lot of talk about people developing psychological self-awareness, so understanding what you're good at, what you want to do, all of those things, incredibly useful. But understanding how to read your body may be even more important than that. So Lisa Feldman Barrett's book, How Emotions Are Made, detail the way that emotions are far more of a bottom-up phenomenon, meaning they come from your body. It isn't you thinking about something and then creating the emotion down. That does happen. And of course, you can spiral yourself out of control simply by thinking. But usually what begins this thinking process is a sense of unease, right? Anxiety is a bodily feeling, oftentimes disconnected from what you're thinking. So figuring out, why do I have this sense? Being able to process it consciously, we can pull it up into our conscious mind and think through it with words and logic. But oftentimes it's starting with that like, oh man, I don't feel good about this and I don't know why. So this is the fascinating thing about drugs is drugs can either eliminate or change the bodily sensation, which then changes the story that you're telling yourself about the sensation. Now, this isn't an advertisement for drugs. It's to get you to understand that it can be risky to sever the sense of body from what you're telling yourself about it. So you want your body to give you this description of what is going on, but then as you take conscious control of that to develop that self-awareness around physiologically what's happening, you need to understand why you're feeling the way that you feel. And so developing that to get a sense of whether this is a time to keep pushing through, or whether this is like one of those moments where you actually really do need to step back. It's the difference between sore muscles from, a nice hard workout and a torn muscle or damaged joint from an injury. And the same thing is true when you're thinking about how hard to work, how hard to push yourself. You need to figure out this fatigue that I'm feeling, this unease, this anxiety, this stress? Is this a natural part of pushing through the difficulties of this project? Or is something else going on? This is now really starting to cave in on me. And what I need to do now is take a step back, meditate, journal, hug my significant other, pet my dog, cuddle my kids, whatever the case may be, go for a run, but doing something that slows you down, lets you take a deep breath. And the only way to figure that out is to be able to interpret the feelings that your body's giving you into conscious thought, okay? And getting good at that loop is very, very important. And it takes practice. It takes understanding what the body is communicating, why it's communicating it, what impacts it, like what you eat and drink has a huge impact on what your gut is telling you. And then your brain tries to make sense of it. And it doesn't always go, oh, I'm feeling anxious because, in my case, I was drinking a 0-calorie Monster, which, much to my dismay, because I absolutely love them, make me feel anxious. And so getting an understanding of that, seeing that pattern was actually quite transformational, because I stopped drinking them and my anxiety levels plummeted by like 70%. It's pretty crazy. Didn't take me to zero, but it made it a phenomenon that was easily manageable through meditation. So this is where you have to develop that awareness, that pattern recognition, and be able to say, oh, I feel this way because of XYZ thing happening at work or with my spouse or with food that I'm consuming. So be very thoughtful about that. And that will then help you determine whether it's we need self-care or we just need to push through.
Rule number 7, learn to delay gratification.
The reality is that those who can delay eating the marshmallow the longest do the best, because you're right. Delaying gratification is an absolute superpower. Now, one of the most extraordinary experiments was done at Stanford University. It's called the marshmallow experiment. There's a whole book written on this, utterly fascinating. They followed the participants in this study for like 25 years. Absolutely incredible. They bring these kids into a room. They give them a marshmallow. And they say, hey, you can eat the marshmallow now if you want. But if you wait until I come back, then I'll give you 2 marshmallows. So it's basically double your money. It's not going to be that long. Now, what the kid doesn't know is that the researcher isn't coming back, and they just want to see how long the kid is going to wait until they eat it. They do eventually come back, but they leave him really to struggle for quite some time. And what they found was the kids that could come up with games where they're singing to themselves, not looking at the marshmallow, whatever, the kids that were able to delay the gratification the longest ended up doing the best. They got the best grades, they got the highest paying jobs, they had the most successful relationships. Now, the reason that that works is in any one moment, if you're just operating around optimizing for momentary mind states, brain states, neurochemical states, then you're always going to be in short-term thinking. You're always going to get short-term results. If, however, you have this goal that excites you and is honorable, and you're able to push through all the boring stuff and all of that, then what you get is a set of skills that allow you to do things other people can't do. And as we established in the last question, if you can do things other people can't do, that is by its very nature success. And you will be rewarded in a way that other people will not be rewarded because they can't do the things you do. And as long as the things that you do are valued by society, then you are always going to do very well. But that ultimately is the key. You have to be able to delay gratification. Now, for me, understanding that that was the nature of things, that if I can delay my momentary wishes for something longer term, then I could get these very different results that separated me from other people. And because I'm excited about what I'm pursuing, I use that excitement as my trick to stay focused when things get boring. And I've said many times that boredom kills more entrepreneurs than failure. So everyone will tell you that fear of failure is what stops people, and that is a huge deal. But honestly, I think it's the fact that people don't want the outcome badly enough to fight through all the boring, painful stuff that you have to go through to get to the other side to ultimately be successful. So make sure that you are hyped up on your goal. If you're not, then you're not going to be willing to go through all the difficult things.
Rule number 8, establish a value system.
Where should a person start with improving their self-care if they have low self-esteem? Do you think leveraging one can directly improve the other. Okay. You've really got two issues here, but they are inextricably linked. You've got biology, you've got psychology. The self-care is largely going to be a question of biology, getting the sleep, eating a diet that at a cellular level is serving us, at a microbiome level is helping us, at a cognition level is helping us, right? Setting us up for success. Meditating, making sure that we get that background stress and anxiety radiation down to zero, huge in terms of getting you into a calm and creative space so that you can think through difficult problems. All of these things are what you're going to need to do if you want to do well in your life. Now, self-esteem is a whole nother issue. Self-esteem has everything to do with what you think about yourself when you're by yourself. Now, you have to earn your way to that. And so the key to earning your way to that is to figure out what is your value system. What do you value? What do you think is the way that people should be spending their time and their energies? And then are you doing things in accordance with that? And then there are things that are baked in that are innate. So there are these innate drivers given to us by evolution, hard work, the desire to contribute to the group, meaning and purpose, deep connection with other people that we love, okay? You have that imperative. There is nothing that you can do to shake that imperative. And so understanding how it works and understanding how you need to meet the needs of that if you want to be fulfilled and be joyful is critically important. So as you go about teasing out whether you have a self-care issue, a biological issue, a self-esteem issue, something that is either we're not addressing the imperatives to contribute, which is sort of the easiest one to go to, or we've let the self-care get so out of whack, we're not sleeping, we're not doing all of those things, that it's really beginning to debilitate us from doing the things that we need to do in order to build up our self-esteem. Now, your self-esteem is really built around the framework of congruence. I said I was going to do it and I'm going to do it. So that when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. And then whether that's a promise you make to yourself or to somebody else. And then the fulfillment formula, which is to work really hard to gain a set of skills that are unique to you and matter to you or exciting to you, and that they serve not only yourself but other people. And so if you're doing that, working really hard to get exceptional at something that matters, that the world cares about, and that you love, and then you contribute in a way that elevates you and other people, that's the game of fulfillment. And so if you're doing that, I think you will find that that will take care of self-esteem. But if you're not doing that, if you're not finding ways to contribute to the group, if you're not progressing in your life, then you're going to really struggle with that. So you do the self-care to make sure that you can actually build the self-esteem by contributing in that way. And then those two things work wonderfully together, but you have to recognize that they really are two separate issues and they both need to be addressed.
Rule number 9, identify your self-worth.
I know that what matters in life is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself, and that how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself is largely a function of your identity, what you believe to be true about who you are. And I know that it is critically important to earn credibility with yourself. And to earn credibility with yourself, when you say you're going to do something, you must do it. And if you don't, then you won't have credibility with yourself. You won't be able to respect yourself. And unfortunately, you probably won't have a lot of self-worth. One of the keys to developing self-worth is to recognize what you think is worthy and then to do that. And so doing that thing is going to become incredibly important. And that's why I have these rules in my life. That's why I focus on identity. Now, there's a statement I use to understand where my identity is, which is I'm the type of person that. I'm the type of person that when I say I'm going to get out of bed in 10 minutes or less, I actually get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. Now, that makes me feel good about myself. I'm the type of person that believes so much in what he's building that Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out, right? So you build these identity statements into your life that when you adhere to them, they make you feel good about who you are. They represent something in your value system that you believe to be true and worthy. And when you do that, and then you adhere to those things, then you're going to feel way better about yourself. And the desire to capture that feeling about who you are over and over and over becomes the very thing that propels you out of bed and gets you going and moving towards your dreams. So I cannot stress the importance of that enough.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is be consistent.
You want to set yourself up in the way that we were talking about earlier to make consistency the default answer. So we go to bed at the same time. We have our meal plan prepped out. So we don't have infinite ingredients in the house and a bunch of junk food. It's like we have the ingredients we need to make the food that we want to make. Our gym clothes are right next to the bed, all of that stuff. So we are setting ourselves up so that the right answer is the easiest answer. And the pantry is an easy way to explain that. If you don't know what you're going to eat, you don't have rules around what you eat, and you've got a bunch of junk food in the house, the odds of you sticking to your diet are basically zero because you don't have things laid out. You have not said, this is what I eat for breakfast, this is what I eat for lunch, this is what time I eat, this is what time I stop eating, all that stuff. Put rules in your life, buy according to that, live according to that, and then keep that list of the things that you know that you're supposed to be doing, okay? It's very important for you to make the right choice the easy choice. As you do that in multiple areas of your life and just start ruling things out, and this is, again, where bright lines really come in handy, you have to have things that you don't do as much as knowing what you do. And a lot of people get themselves in trouble because they don't have these bright lines. There aren't things that are off limits. So, for instance, Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out. So you can imagine if I start goofing off, I start playing with the dog, I play video games, I would know immediately that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing because is it Monday through Friday? Yes. Am I working or working out? No. Cool. Then you're doing the wrong thing. And so by having these rules, and writing them down can be really useful. Having these rules, writing them down, knowing exactly what you're trying to accomplish and why you're trying to accomplish it. Because remember, you don't want to live the way that I'm describing unless it's in service of something you love, that you're excited about, that you believe in, that you want it. Because when you want that stuff, none of what I'm describing is a pain in the ass. You're excited to have these rules because they're actually allowing you to get done the thing you want to get done. And the more you engage with it, the more exciting it is, the more your passions are ignited because you're getting good at something, you're making progress, and something we haven't talked about. Make sure your goals are exciting and honorable. They're exciting. You just want to do it. It's fun. This is an area that you like to be in. And it's serving people in a way that elevates not only yourself, but other people, okay? When you're working your ass off to gain a set of skills that allow you to serve other people in a way that's fun, now you've really got something. If you hear me talking about all this and I'm saying apply it to a thing that you hate, that doesn't make any sense. But when you apply it to something that you believe in, and you have to do that work, you have to decide to attach that meaning and purpose to that thing. But when you do that, now all of a sudden working hard and being a badass and seeing who you're becoming, that is amazing. As Tony Robbins says, progress is a foundational pillar to human happiness. Make progress. Make progress and you will feel amazing. Discipline isn't meant to make your life suck. As Jocko Willink says, discipline equals freedom. The point of these rules and all of that is to know you're not going to quit. And you're not going to quit on something that you care about, something that matters to you, something that you're building towards that is improving your life and giving you a sense of joy. Unfortunately, joy is not easy to come by. All of the default answers are going to lead you somewhere negative. And the reason they lead you somewhere negative is because nature has hardwired you to work really hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to serve not only yourself, but other people. Nature has hardwired you for that. So if you fail to do that, you sit around just playing video games all day, and I love video games, but I don't sit around playing them all day. So if you're just sitting around staring at the wall, getting lost in a book, working out all day, and you never do anything that allows you to serve other people, I promise you, as much as you don't want this to be true, you will not feel fulfilled. Okay, nature only has two levers to pull, pleasure and pain. And if you're not doing the things that nature has deemed you need to do in order for you to live long enough to have kids that have kids, you will have a profound sense of dis-ease. And the only way to combat that is that formula for fulfillment, working really hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to serve not only yourself, because it should be fun for you, but also serve other people.
As Michelangelo said, if people knew how hard I worked to achieve my mastery, it wouldn't seem so wonderful after all. And that's the thing about getting great. That's the thing about being an artist of such caliber that you're remembered for hundreds of years after your death. It is back-breaking work. It is a blinding amount of effort. It isn't about natural talent. That myth that some people are born with something that we celebrate so much is just that, a myth. You're born a lump of flesh. You can't hold your own head up. You may have predispositions, but that is a long way from actually crafting your ability until the point where it looks like magic. And that's the beauty of artistry, isn't it? That it's so unbelievable that you're more willing to believe that it was God-given, that they were anointed with it, than that they just worked their ass off. But the truth is, every one of the greats, no matter how much natural talent they were born with, they're remembered because they worked. They are remembered because they did so much work. Because in that work is hardship. In that work is difficulty. In that work is unbearable adversity. But it's in that adversity that the magic happens. And as Victor Hugo said, adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. So I know right now you wish you'd been born with some talent. You wish that all those dreams that you had, they were yours for the taking, that you didn't have to put blood, sweat, and tears into it, that somebody would hand you at least something in the beginning, that they would give you some start, some spark. That's where the monster's created. If you really want to get hard, if you really want to get tough, if you want to get great, if you want to be untouchable because no one can bend or break your vision of yourself, then you have to suffer. That's the way of the world. And as Florence Nightingale said, I attribute my success to this: I never gave or took any excuse. And that's the secret. At the end of the day, if you know what you want, it's only a question of whether you're willing to pay the price to get there. So ask yourself, are you willing to pay the price?
What steps did you take to separate business growth from personal growth? I often find myself confused on which one to grow, but I do know that if you don't grow, your business won't grow either. Any tips? So for me, they're inextricably connected. And my advice to anybody, whether you're a linchpin employee or whether you're an entrepreneur, there should not be any difference between yourself as a person and what you're doing as a job. You spend 50% of your waking hours at your job. 50% of your waking hours are at your job. So, and that's assuming, I think I did the math at like a 40 or 50 hour work week. So if you work as much as I do, where it's like 90 hours, sometimes more, then it's like, okay, at some point, like if there is a difference between who you are as a person, the things you want to learn and grow and get better at, and what you're spending all that time on, I don't think you're going to look back too favorably on your life. And quite frankly, I don't think you're going to enjoy the moment, because I'm not a legacy guy. I don't think about, like, I am not at all worried about what I'm going to think on my deathbed, because hopefully my deathbed isn't a very long endeavor. So I would rather live my life the way that I'm enjoying it right now today. Like, I'll just tell you, I'm going to regret on my deathbed. I will for sure regret not having kids. 100%. Like, that is so patently obvious to me. And when people ask, like, aren't you worried you're going to regret it? Not even a little bit, because I would regret having kids today. And today, hopefully, is a lot longer, because you got a whole lot of todays than your deathbed. So to me, optimize for what makes you feel the most alive every day in the struggle, because the struggle is guaranteed. So that's where I like to spend my time, thinking about that, thinking about the things that are making me the person that I want to become right now in the moment. If I'm fighting with something at work, that I'm still having to learn the skills that I would want to learn even if I wasn't at work. And so, yeah, that's it. And I think that you can find that whether you're a linchpin employee or whether
whether you're an entrepreneur. You just have to select the company that you work for or the company that you create very, very, very carefully.
What tools can I use to help shut off my brain from the millions of ideas when I've chosen one to give all my energy and focus to? I left my job as VP of a major food company after 10 years a year ago to start my own business, and I struggle with being my own boss now that I only have myself to hold myself accountable. But this business is my livelihood and my future and my passion project. All right, I love this, man. I can relate to this heavily. All right, I've always said that the thing that sobers up entrepreneurs faster than anything is to have your house on the line. When you've got a wife, kids, just rent to make whatever, even if you're a solo flyer, but you know you've got to eat, all of a sudden you become real sober about either something is working or it is not. And when it is not working, man, you better make a change and make a change ASAP. There's some real clarity to that. Now, I would say that you want, and I can predict the kickback I'm going to get on this, but this is the truth. And because I live it every day, as 50 Cent said, I came in the game humble. Can't nobody tell me now. You want to tie your identity to your success. It's dangerous because, oh my God, if you end up failing, you're going to have to backtrack real fast and get your identity back out of that. But we're going to save that for another class. For now, I'm going to tell you, hey, the fact that it's all riding on the line, the fact that you said you were going to do this, and now, baby, it's put up or shut up. Let that ride on you. Now, be very careful. Don't let it create so much pressure that you become paralyzed, because that does not serve you. We do and believe that which moves us towards our goals. So we want the pressure, but not so much that it causes us to crack, not so much that it slows us down or, puts us in this death spiral, right? You never allow yourself to say the words, I'm out of moves. You're never out of moves. You're never out of options, right? There is always something else that you can do. Number one rule of being an entrepreneur, avoid a mortality event. The name of the game is to stay in business long enough to figure it out. It is very okay to not know what you're doing right now. It is very much not okay to stand still. The only wrong move in life ever is standing still. Indecision will kill you. Mistakes will not. Now we can get into the idea of dent the car, don't total the car, because of course, yes, you could make a fatal mistake. But those are usually pretty easy to spot. If you ask yourself, hey, if this fails, do I go out of business? If the answer is yes, don't even attempt it. Move on to something where the answer is no. Far better to take incremental steps towards your goal, to stay in the game long enough to figure out exactly what direction you want to be taking those steps in, than to do one sort of big, put it all on the roulette wheel and bet it all on black, okay? That we do not want to do. Stay in the game, tie your identity to that success, be all in. While I don't encourage people to burn the ships to the shore, I actually encourage people, keep your day job. You've already burned your ships to the shore, so you need to be honest that behind you is the flaming wreckage of your previous life. Now, probably good to hold a little nugget in your head reminding you that you can always get back to that because you have the skills, and skills have utility. But for now, we're going to close the door on that. That's going to be the break glass in case of emergency sort of notion. For now, we want to make sure that since we left our previous job, it's do or die, so let's do. Now, personally, I respond well to that. I love that. I love having things ride on it. But I'm very careful not to let that overwhelm me. So the whole notion of overwhelm is outside the scope of this question, but I think you're in a powerful position. But you have to embrace the do or die mentality. So get in there, get after it. If you almost play a game with yourself and say, I want to see if I can change the energy of somebody who's being difficult. I want to see if I can stay compassionate, generous, kind, warm through all of this. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's really hard, especially if it's your kids or your parents or your spouse. Like, it can be hard. I get it. But as we try to be our best selves and present ourselves in a way that's going to get us what we want, which is a harmonious relationship, which is the ending of the difficulty, by looking at what we could do to change that situation, you will be shocked at how far that goes. Figuring out how to point out the scaffolding of a conversation is huge. Breaking things down into small pieces, being generous in articulating their stance, recognizing a collision of values and knowing, hey, if we can't agree on where we're trying to end up, if we can't agree on what the value is, this is going to be a fruitless conversation. And the sooner you recognize that's where you're at and that you need to actually talk about the value or just go your separate ways, the healthier all of your relationships are going to be. And then just lead with kindness and recognize that people that think differently, that's important. And we shouldn't want everybody to see the world exactly the way that we see it. And if we can come at things from that perspective of trying to understand before we try to be understood, woo-wee, you're going to find that a lot of that difficulty just goes by the wayside. And that's how I deal with difficult people.
As Friedrich Nietzsche said, many are stubborn in pursuit of the path they have chosen, few in pursuit of the goal. And that's one of the things that really trips people up. At the end of the day, a path is an option. It's one of the ways forward, but it's the thing that you're doing right now today. So people get really focused on that. They make their happiness built around that. They think about that as the thing. But as the old saying goes, don't confuse the finger with the moon that it's pointing at. That's where you've got to be really careful. At the end of the day, the goal is the thing that you're trying to achieve. The goal is what you're trying to get. The path is irrelevant. The path is really your best guess. It's the thing you think is going to work. But if you become myopically focused on that, if you think that the path really is the end thing, if you think the finger actually is the moon, then you miss the objective to which you're fighting for. Then you're not going to have the energy to keep pushing when things get really hard, because you're going to have mistaken the way of getting there with the destination itself. And I think that people a lot of times throw hate on having a destination, on building towards some big goal, of having some grand thing that they're chasing. But as Einstein said, if you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people, not to things. And the reason that he said that, people and things, they change. You've got no control over them. At the end of the day, the only thing that you really control is yourself. At the end of the day, the only thing that you can hope for is to be going after something that has meaning, something that has purpose, something that really gives you a reason for being, that directs your actions, that becomes the filter by which you judge everything, that really becomes the center, the gravitational center of your own universe. But it's the goal, not the path. So what is it that you really want? You have to identify that. To me, everything in life starts with a goal, and then work your way backwards. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in other people and putting your happiness in somebody else and finding purpose in something else and trying to obtain things. Have it be something that you're trying to accomplish. Have it be something that you're trying to become. Once you're on the path to becoming, then you can find real happiness. One of the most surreal things about my experience as an entrepreneur is that the better I get at it, the more that I do, the more I feel lost, the more I feel like there's too much for me to possibly know and understand. And in that is my power. That's literally the source of my power, because I understand that my journey is one of learning. I understand that, as Naval Ravikant said, the genuine love for reading itself, when cultivated, is a superpower. The means of learning are abundant. It's the desire to learn that's scarce. But if you have that desire, if you cultivate that desire to learn, if you accept that you're in this big world that is far too big for you to understand every piece of it, but in recognizing that you don't understand it all and putting yourself on this quest to learn obsessively, to get better, to fall in love with the actual process of gaining knowledge, if you stay hungry for that at all times and you don't calcify your thoughts into dogma, but rather stay fresh, stay naive, stay hungry and foolish to really learn and grow, then you actually obtain power. And this is the part I want people to understand. Look past the words and hear what I'm really saying. As you take on the knowledge, as you're learning one thing after another, those skills have practical application. And it is that practical application, born of understanding how little you really know, that allows you to become far more powerful than the people that think they know. Because when they think they know, they stop growing. When they think they know, they calcify. When they think they know, their thoughts get brittle like bone and break. But when you think you know nothing, when you think you have to learn everything, when you're really just trying to figure out if something works, if it gets you the result, then those skills become real. They become tested by what you're doing. They are boundless because you're always trying to find that next thing. You're never self-satisfied. You're never self-congratulatory. You're simply asking, where do I want to go? What skills do I need to acquire to get there? And knowing that each one of those that you get, brick by brick by brick, builds a real path to where you want to go. So fall in love with the idea that you know nothing. Fall in love with the idea that learning is a superpower. Fall in love with that hunger. Want to get better every day. Never be tricked by the desire to be self-satisfied. Never be tricked by the desire to be great today. Never fool yourself into thinking who you are today is who you can become. I don't care how far you've come. I don't care how many accomplishments are in your rearview mirror. If you fall prey to that, your past will always be bigger than your future. And there is one mandate that I make of myself and anyone else that wants to be around me. Your future must always be bigger than your past. And the only way for that to be true is to love how little you really know, and to love how much you can learn if you just keep going. You can choose to believe in luck. You can choose to believe that you don't have control, that you don't have agency, that the world is happening to you. Or you can choose to recognize that cause and effect exists, that if you want to get better at something, you need to put in the work, that if you want to get stronger, you need to lift heavier weights, that you can either ask for stronger shoulders to carry a bigger load, or you can ask for a lighter load. The choice is yours, but at the end of the day, if you want those strong shoulders, they're yours to build. You've got to make those choices. You've got to understand the cause and effect. You've got to understand that your life right now is the exact reflection of your choices. Your life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hateful, the painful, the joyful, the beautiful, everything in your life is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of the things you've decided to do. It's a reflection of the things you've decided not to do. It's the story you tell yourself about yourself, what you believe is capable. All of those things, they're the choices that you're making every day, and at any time you can choose to make a different choice. And as Bruce Lee said, if you always put limits on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits. There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. Even in the statement, you can see him making a choice about what to believe by saying that there are no limits, by taking something that other people perceive as a limit, as something that's stopping him, and saying that's not, it's a plateau, it's something that I can push through. And you see what he holds himself accountable to. It's not okay to stay at a plateau. It's okay to have one. Everybody has them. They happen. It's a natural part of the course of getting better, but it is not okay to stay there. And that is a choice. That's not something anyone can hand you. It's something you have to believe to the core of your soul that it is not okay to stay in a plateau, and it's that that's going to push you through. It's that that's going to make you get up and keep going. But first, you have to recognize that life is cause and effect. You have to recognize that that choice is a knock-on effect. You have to recognize that him merely saying those words out loud have a cause and effect. They change the course of his life, the expectations that other people have of him, expectations that he has of himself. And because he understands that he can control the outside world by first controlling what's inside, by changing his belief system to match what he wants to accomplish, he's then able to accomplish. What he did in his life had nothing to do with luck. It had everything to do with the demands that he made on himself. It had to do with when he got in a motorcycle accident and people told him he would never walk again. Not only did he walk again, all of the major accomplishments that we think about of being that man, they all came after. They came after he was told he was never going to walk. It came after he was told that he was never going to be able to do martial arts. But he did it. He did the grueling work of getting better. He understood cause and effect. He understood that if he chose to believe that he could never do it, that he'd never be able to do it. But that if he chose to believe that by working out he could get stronger and get better and get back to it, that he could. And that's what he did. So now ask yourself, Is your life dictated by luck or cause and effect? Are you in control or is it somebody else? Is someone else in control or is it you? And if it's you, go build the life that you want, because there's nothing stopping you but you.
How do I stop myself from beating myself up for trying to do something that failed miserably and then continuing to overthink everything about what happened? Thank you so much for any advice and assistance that you can provide. Okay, here is how to conceptualize failure and the disappointment that goes along with it. Once you understand that what the human animal is designed to do is learn, then you have to ask yourself, if what has made the human animal the most apex of apex predators the world has ever seen, the most capable of completely changing its environment, what is it that allows them to learn fast? And the answer is failure. Now, the reason that failure is truly useful, and I'm not just saying that to make you or myself feel better. In fact, I wish that it wasn't the way to learn the fastest. But the reality is, the reason that it works so well is that when you fail, you trigger areas of the brain that are focused on memory and focus. So you've got the memory side, so you're going to remember this. You've got the pain. This does not feel good. I do not want to go through this again. So you've got that, which heightens your emotions, which makes you more likely to remember this thing moving forward. And then it also narrows your attention. So you're really looking at, why did this go wrong? And when you have this sense of, I never want to repeat this, and you're looking very closely at, why did this go wrong? Now, all of a sudden, failures, because of what it does to your brain, and quite frankly, because you're in the mix, you're trying things, and we learn better from doing than from reading about it or hearing about it. So failures suddenly become the most information-rich data stream on planet Earth, heightens your likelihood of remembering, and it focuses you in on exactly what's the problem. So now, even though failing sucks, part of what makes it valuable is that it sucks. In fact, it may suck in order to make it valuable. Let that sink in. That nature went, when this happens, in order for this to be useful for this animal, for this evolutionary creature, I need to make sure that it becomes advantageous, so that as they make mistakes, assuming that they don't get eaten by a lion, I want to make sure that they don't put themselves in that position again. And so we have to learn from some method. And the method that gets us moving, taking action, trying things, feeling the pain, focusing, that's going to be the thing that we're going to get the most takeaways from. So now, as you reframe what failure is not proof that you're a loser. Failure is the process by which you become better. Okay? Failure is not the process that reveals that you're a loser. Failure is the process by which you become better. That is the name of failure. So now, when you fail, why would you beat yourself up over it? It's the nature of progress itself. There is no way to get better without failing. It's the fastest way. It is the most effective way. It is necessary. You have to do it. And by the way, for you to have failed at something, you showed the courage to try it. So instead of wasting time beating yourself up over the fact that something went wrong, we're going to say, that's the nature of progress. We have to try something. It's not going to work as well as we want it to, or I may fall flat on my face. I may outright embarrass myself. And if I let that break me, I will fail to learn the lesson. But if I do what nature is compelling me to do, and I focus on what went wrong, why did this happen? Because I never want to go through this again. You stack enough of those, what went wrong? I never want to go through this again. Enough of those together, and you actually get good. And translating potential into skill set is the name of the game. And you will never do that more efficiently than you will through failure and mistakes. So allowing yourself to wallow in disappointment doesn't make any sense. It's the learning process. This is what you have to do in order to get good. So there's no reason to spend a lot of time being disappointed. You brush yourself off, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you get going.
As Mark Twain said, the secret to getting ahead is getting started. That's something I want all of you guys to really embody and really think about and really put at the core of your existence. That step number one to accomplishing whatever it is that you want to do is actually getting started. And I understand, I know the thing that holds you back. I know the thing that is absolutely paralyzing for people is you don't think that you have what it takes to go out and be good. And rather than face that difficult, brutal process of growing and getting better, and quite frankly, facing your inadequacies, it's easier just to sit back. But as John Wooden said, never let what you cannot do interfere with what you can. There is something right now that you're capable of. There is an innate skill inside of you that's your spark. It's that starting point. It's that thing that while you may not be the best in the world at it, it's a flame that you can fan. It's something that you can breathe life into and really begin to get good. But first you have to understand the very nature of progress. And that's as Stephen Covey said. You're not the product of your circumstances, but rather a product of your decisions. And it's those decisions that are going to allow you to build that skill set. So don't worry about where you started. Don't worry about what you already have. Remember, it's the decisions that you make. It's going down that road. It is the decision to get started. It's the decision to face possible failure. It's the decision to get up once you failed. And it's the decision of what to learn when you fail. Do you learn that you're not good enough? Do you learn that you never should have tried? Or do you learn a lesson from the failure and get up and brush yourself off and remember that at the end of the day, you're going to go as far as you're willing to fight for, and that's it. And if you're willing to fight to go all the way, then you will go that far. You will set a new bar. You will define for people what is possible. You become that beacon of hope. You become that thing that other people look to as the standard. But at the end of the day, it started with you getting started. It started with you showing up. It started with you pushing and trying. So get out there. Don't worry about what you have and what you are. Focus on who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. Scott Belsky said, when 99% of the people doubt your idea, you're either gravely wrong or about to make history. And that's the terrifying part. You're not going to know. You're not going to know the difference. But if you're chasing somebody else's path, if your whole game is emulation, if your whole game is to mimic that which inspires you, you will never find the thing that's real about you. And look, I don't know about you, but I can be wrong. I can be gravely wrong. I can have people think me an idiot and try something and fail as long as it was true to me. Because then the lesson that I'm going to learn is going to apply. It's going to take me another step closer to actually being the person that I want to become, that I want to live with every day. But I can't be that if I don't understand who I want to be. So look inward, identify your path, identify what excites you, and go after it as if your life depends on it. Because in truth, it does. Albert Einstein said, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. And that's what confuses people. People believe that they're dumb because they're not finding their path. They're not defining things based on what excites them and what they want to live with every day. They're just looking to what the outside world says is good. And I think it's incredible that there are other people doing things that are so extraordinary that we aspire to be like that. But you have to understand the difference between being like someone and trying to actually be them. So if what inspires you is that somebody works hard, work hard. If what inspires you is that somebody gets up every time they fail, get up every time you fail. If what you like is that they're themselves with all their weird eccentricities and quirks, then be true to your eccentricities and quirks, but don't try to embody their eccentricities and quirks. That's the surest way to become the fish that thinks it's stupid because it's being judged by trying to climb a tree. As Thomas Edison said, our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is to always try one more time. I know there are going to be a million times in your life where you want to give up, where you absolutely ache with the desire to quit, where nothing sits inside of your gut other than the certainty that you are going to fail, that you are not good enough to push forward. But that is to fundamentally misunderstand the nature of a failure. The nature of a failure is not to tell you who you are. The nature of a failure is to tell you a way that didn't work. It's to inform. It's to educate you. It's to test you. It's to be a gut check to find out if you believe in yourself enough to push forward even when the world seems to be telling you not to. And as Brian Tracy said, attempt the impossible in order to improve your work. Think about that for a second. Attempt the impossible just to get better, to try the things that you know are going to fail, things that the world is going to tell you simply cannot be. But even if it violates the laws of physics, if there's something in that attempt that you're going to learn, you owe it to yourself. You have a moral obligation to try. Because all of the people that will lie in your wake are the people that didn't try simply because they didn't believe that they could do it. You have to be willing to look at the world. You have to be willing to see things that you yourself think are impossible and try, because in that you will stretch yourself. You have to be willing to look inward at the state of your current skill set and say, I'm going to play outside of that. I'm not going to play where it's safe. I'm going to play where it hurts. I'm going to play where I feel clumsy. I'm going to play only in the areas that make me feel stupid, because in that I know that the way that the brain responds is through adaptation, but I have to stress myself. You can't ever lose sight of that. The only way that the human animal adapts is through stress. You have to be willing to break things in order to build something new. So if you want to push the boundaries, if you want to see just how far you can go, if you want to succeed at the highest level, if you want to play on a global scale, you have got to be willing to try the impossible, because right now, the things that you need to do are impossible for you. But they won't remain that way forever. And as Aristotle said, pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. This doesn't have to be a tale of always being terrified. Everybody, myself included, screaming at you, telling you that you need to go do something great. The part they're leaving out is why the f should you care? And you should care because it's the greatest joy. You should only listen to this if it's leading you down a path that makes you feel more alive, and that's the point. The point is to get in touch with something that makes you feel great, but not to let yourself starve or be stopped by a fear that you'll fail, by a fear that it can't be done. Have fun. Have the guts to enjoy yourself. Have the guts to go out and attempt something audacious and terrifying, knowing that all along, if you're doing it right, you're gonna have a good time. So all of this, going balls out, trying to prove something to yourself, trying to do something amazing, never lose sight that it's to build a better life. Never lose sight of the fact that you're doing it to create the person that you want to be. Never lose sight of the fact that it should be fun. Step number one to accomplishing whatever it is that you want to do is actually getting started. And I understand, I know the thing that holds you back. I know the thing that is absolutely paralyzing for people is you don't think that you have what it takes to go out and be good. And rather than face that difficult, brutal process of growing and getting better, and quite frankly, facing your inadequacies, it's easier just to sit back. But as John Wooden said, never let what you cannot do interfere with what you can. There is something right now that you're capable of. There is an innate skill inside of you that's your spark. It's that starting point. It's that thing that while you may not be the best in the world at it, it's a flame that you can fan. It's something that you can breathe life into and really begin to get good. But first you have to understand the very nature of progress. And that's as Stephen Covey said. You're not the product of your circumstances, but rather a product of your decisions. And it's those decisions that are going to allow you to build that skill set. So don't worry about where you started. Don't worry about what you already have. Remember, it's the decisions that you make. It's going down that road. It is the decision to get started. It's the decision to face possible failure. It's the decision to get up once you failed. And it's the decision of what to learn when you fail. Do you learn that you're not good enough? Do you learn that you never should have tried? Or do you learn a lesson from the failure and get up and brush yourself off and remember that at the end of the day, you're going to go as far as you're willing to fight for, and that's it. And if you're willing to fight to go all the way, then you will go that far. You will set a new bar. You will define for people what is possible. You become that beacon of hope. You become that thing that other people look to as the standard. But at the end of the day, it started with you getting started. It started with you showing up. It started with you pushing and trying. So get out there. Don't worry about what you have and what you are. Focus on who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. Everything around you is incredible if you're willing to look at it that way. Everything around you can be taken for granted if that's your perspective. But it really is about the frame that you choose to put around things. I mean, simply being alive is already insane. The odds are so stacked against you, not only just being a human, but being a human at this moment in time. This moment in time where breakthroughs in technology are happening at an unprecedented rate, where breakthroughs in medical science are happening at an unprecedented rate, where our ability to connect with people, to empathize with people all the way around the globe, all of the changes that have happened in technology and telecom and connectivity, health, everything. We're living in the most miraculous time ever. But you have to look at it that way. And as Joseph Campbell said, life is a wonderful, wonderful opera, except that it hurts. So the question is, do you see it as the beautiful opera? Or do you just pay attention to the pain? And at the end of the day, you're gonna get what you focus on. They're both true. This is both the most amazing time that's ever happened ever in recorded history. And yet real things that are terrifying are also happening. But where you put your energy, where you put your attention, where you put your focus is going to determine what you see. And that is the most fascinating and the most important thing you have to understand about the way that your mind works. You get what you focus on. If you focus on the things that are bad, they will become real. They will become exaggerated. They will begin to monopolize your thoughts. You'll see them everywhere. It's called the reticular activating system. Your mind is literally designed to pay attention to the things that you notice. Once you notice a certain car, you see it everywhere. Once you notice a certain dog, you see it everywhere. Once you hear a certain name for the first time, suddenly you realize that that name has been all around you this entire time. But now that you're focusing on it, now that you're looking for it, it is everywhere. So whatever you look for, it's going to be everywhere. If you look for the negative, it'll be there. But if you look for the positive, it will overwhelm you. The most powerful weapon that you're going to have at your disposal isn't a gun, it isn't a sword, it isn't a bomb. The most powerful weapon you will ever have at your disposal, if you really want to make change, is knowledge. It doesn't mean going to school. It can be school, it can be books, it can be a mentor, it can be somebody else's failure, it can be your own failure. But whatever it is, to always be learning, to be learning something today, knowing that that's an investment. And as Robert Louis Stevenson said, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but rather by the seeds you plant. And that's what knowledge is. That's what the learning process is you're learning something today that you may not even understand how it's going to be valuable. But one day, that piece of knowledge is going to come to your aid one day. That thing that you learned is going to be something that you're going to lean on one day. That thing that you've worked your ass off to understand better than anybody else in the world. It's going to help you change the world. But you have to be doing it now. You have to be learning with an obsession. You have to understand that ideas in equal ideas out, and that you have to chase that knowledge down, that it is a relentless pursuit, and that like you would build an armada, like you would create a stockpile of weapons, you must create a stockpile of knowledge. You must learn and learn and learn, and you must hold yourself accountable every day to planting those seeds, to getting better, to learning more, to understanding things more broadly. When you do that, there will be nothing that won't be unlocked to you. That's what I want you guys to understand. It doesn't matter where you are now. It doesn't matter where you started, your circumstances, the money, the people that you know. None of it matters. What matters is how much are you willing to learn? How good are you willing to get? How much knowledge are you willing to soak in? Because that will become your weapon. That will be how you rise up, and that will be the thing that will protect you when you need it most.
This is why Jocko Willink says discipline is freedom. When you know, I don't go outside of these lines. I don't break these rules. These rules are hard and fast. They are bright lines. Now, there's no, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. It's like me and getting out of bed in 10 minutes or less. I never want to. Every single day, literally every day of my life, my brain is kicking up excuses. Why today I shouldn't have to get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. Even I am startled that after I've been doing this now for more than 20 years, even 20 years in, I still have to fight every day. But I have bright lines, so there's no excuse. So literally when I think, oh, well, today you don't have to for XYZ reasons, my conscious mind, I've repeated it so many times, is this is a bright line. There are no excuses. There is no reason. There is no if, ands, or buts. You get out of bed in 10 minutes or less, full stop, period, end of story. And so therefore I get out of bed. But you have to know what you're striving for. You have to know why you're doing all of this, why you're putting in all these rules. And it has to be something you're actually interested in, you're actually excited about. Otherwise, why? Why are you limiting your life like this? Why are you narrowing things down? Okay? Why not go get the dopamine hit from the fridge? You have to have a reason, right? You've got to know why you eat a certain way or don't eat a certain way. You've got to know why you're working this hard. You've got to know why you push through the difficult things. Okay? Nietzsche's quote, the person with the right why can survive almost any how. Okay? But you have to know what your why is. You've got to know why you're pushing through all this stuff. But once you have that, you'll be able to slap some rules on this and get to the other side.
As Václav Havel said, work for something because it is good, not just because it stands a chance to succeed. And this is something that I think a lot of people misunderstand. They think that the goal of their life is to identify something that'll work, to identify something that has the odds stacked in its favor, rather than to think about what matters, what's important. Because if something is important, if it speaks to you, if it's going to give resonance to your life, then it's worth doing, even if it's something that is almost guaranteed to fail. When something matters enough, regardless of the odds, it's worth engaging with, because even in the pursuit, you can find meaning. And as humans, one of the things that we hunger for most is purpose and meaning, but you can't have that purpose and meaning without the thing that you're pursuing be something that you believe to be worthwhile. So don't worry about whether or not it succeeds. Ask only about whether or not it's going to light you on fire. Ask only if in those dark moments that it will give you that sense of mattering to this world, that even in the failure, do you learn something about yourself? Do you see the truth that you matter, and that even as a single person, even as one individual, you can echo through this world. But that will never happen by pursuing something small. That will never happen by pursuing something simply because it can win. It will only happen by pursuing something that matters. And in that, if you pursue something that matters and you're able to get to the point where you can see it across the finish line, or at least advance it and make it a step closer to becoming real, in that we realize how societies really are transformed. In that, and trying the big, the impossible, dreaming that thing that nobody else is even willing to talk about. In dreaming that, it is the crazy ones who are able to change the world, because the crazy ones allowed themselves to believe. They allowed themselves to believe that against all the odds, a world that does not yet exist could actually exist. And as Ralph Marsden said, welcome those big, sticky, complicated problems. In them are your most powerful opportunities. And that's it. The big problems, the ones that matter, the things that will give you purpose and meaning in your life, they're going to be hard. But if you can look at the hard things and show up and push every day and keep striving, and when you fall down, pick yourself back up and focus only on one thing, not whether or not you're going to win, but whether or not it mattered that you played. If you do that, every sacrifice in your life will be worth it. And if not, nothing you gain will have mattered. Self-reward and self-punishment is really, really important.
Yes.
And I think that if people don't sort of automatically have the guilty thing, which they probably do, it's more a willingness to lean into that and to say, okay, this is actually going to serve me, this is going to work for me. And I actually do wonder sometimes, as somebody who now basically has a profession of giving advice, at least on the one side of what I do. And so I think a lot about who should actually take my advice, because my advice is not going to lead to a carefree, easy life. Right. Lisa was just saying, she was laying in bed last night thinking about me, and she said, how the fuck does he do it? Because there's just a level of things that I'm willing to take on, and one, I'm not even sure it's healthy for me, and two, I'm certainly not certain that it's healthy for other people. But what I do know is that I have a level of thrill and pleasurable obsession around it. So for me, it's fun. So when I think about the guilt or the momentary pain of f***ing something up, and you talk about me getting better as a speaker, it's like that journey is, it is a very simple journey that requires you, though, to really accept that you're not very good at things right now, and that's fine. And so a big key for me has always been to think of my life not through the lens of a moment. And I used to tell this to my employees all the time, like, stop judging yourself through the lens of a moment and start judging yourself through the lens of 10 years. If you think of yourself in 10-year increments, like, you will blow your mind. So if you're embarrassed today about where you are, don't compare yourself even to yesterday, which may not soothe that and encourage you to push forward. Think back 10 years. My gut instinct is, unless you've really been treading water, in which case then leverage that pain to never do that again. But if you think back to where you were 10 years, chances are, like, you're gonna be blown away with how far you come. And so then it's like, all right, then I'm just gonna focus my gaze 10 years in the future and start saying, what would I have to do to be somewhere where I'd be blown away then with where I'm at now. But it really does require you to say, okay, the pride that I'm going to establish is actually around my willingness to look at the fact that I'm not good right now today. When you look at somebody with money, especially when you don't have it, you admire them. And so you think, if I had money, I would admire myself. But it doesn't work like that. So once you get the money, the thing you thought would happen to yourself, the story about who you are, you think is gonna change, and it doesn't. So that's when people become totally disillusioned. They think, if I have the Ferrari, I'll think differently about myself. If I have the house, I'll think differently about myself. Your insecurities are coming with you wherever you go. So if you think anything external is gonna change that, the only thing that changes your insecurities, show up in the gym. Put in the effort, go to work, do the things, suffer in service of somebody else, do something to bring beautiful things to people that you love and care about, do something beautiful to bring something to somebody you've never even met. Those things will change your story. They once gave me a list, it was like 750,000 keywords, and I had to comb through it in an Excel spreadsheet and say either yes or no. That took days and days and days of mind-numbing yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
What do you mean 750,000
Because this was
words?
back in, like, so we had words that did we want to advertise on? Do we want to advertise on these keywords? Like, so you would buy a list of like powerful keywords on Google, and this is all CPC stuff.
Got it.
So do we want to show up on these keywords, yes or no? Like, here's our business, you know what we're doing, what keywords would we want to show up on? And so I'd have to go and clean the list. There's no way, no AI to comb through it for us. So I would do that. So anything like that, where I just add value, add value, add value, and everyone starts gravitating towards the person who's always upbeat, great energy,
No doubt about it.
never says no, and is always asking how they can help. It is a formula that will win for all time. And so that was it. And I just threw that intensity at it, because every day I was like, I'm here to get rich. I'm here to get rich. And when I get rich, I'm gonna go build my studio. I'm gonna get rich, 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 rich. And that was all I thought about. I obsessed over it. Now that would end up being my almost downfall, but that was my obsession.
People don't have enough rules in their life for themselves. So for instance, I get out of bed in 10 minutes or less, doesn't matter. And I don't want to. That's why I have the rule. Because I went through,
calloused your mind.
Literally, I went through a period where I would lay in bed for 3 to 4 hours, awash in shame at my inability to get out of bed. And it just embarrassed me. And so I felt badly about myself. So I wanted to make a change. So I knew that I needed a bright line. So bright line, 10 minutes or less, you get out of bed. As soon as you realize you're awake, that's it. So, and the rule is more specific. It's like, I have to have had at least 5 hours of sleep. But once you put the rule in place, then you just live by it. And that's how you earn credibility. Like right now, I don't feel the way telling you that I want to feel. This is a good moment. He's on my team. I'm pointing at him. This is a good moment. So I'm saying this, and I don't feel good about saying it. Why? Because today, I don't know what happened. I got out of bed in 11 minutes. And I was so
You literally
pissed.
time it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
waking up to actually physically getting out of the bed?
Correct. My feet must be on the floor, and I
This is
must
your
be standing
challenge?
up before it ticks over into the 11th minute. And today, I don't know what happened. I was aware of the time. I knew I needed to get up. And for whatever reason, one of the minutes just went faster than I thought. When I looked back, I was like, damn it.
And so
I'm surprised
there's
you even
11
made
minutes.
it here today then.
Right? Yeah. So now this comes into like knowing how to handle something like that. Like if you totally fall apart because you don't live up to one of your rules, you're violating another one of my rules, which is don't do anything that doesn't move you towards your goals. So it's like, yes, it is a part of my identity to confess this. So because I'm talking about it, I want to say it now to an audience. It's the only thing that will allow me to reset and be able to feel good about it again, because I don't lie. When I miss it, I own it.
Well, look, if your biggest problem is it took you 11 minutes to get out of
Sadly,
bed,
that's not my biggest problem.
This is a high quality problem.
Right. Yes, very true. But my thing is people don't have the rules. And so I have other rules, for instance. I wear a size 32 pant. That's it. And so
no matter what your waist is.
No. I won't let my waist get out of line with that. So I use the pants as a way to guide. Now I would go down if I got so lean that I was, a 31. That's not a problem. But I'm not going to allow myself to go up. And it's super tempting, like especially around Christmas. I don't try to hold abs through the winter. So during Christmas, like right now, I do not have abs. So, and I'm totally fine with that. I switch a different part of my mentality. During the holidays, my wife and I definitely celebrate with food, and it's amazing. And I love it the most. So, but if that celebration took me up to like 32s don't fit anymore, I got to cut back because I have a rule. So it's like, that's how I keep myself in a lane. I keep myself from getting into trouble. I know the things that I accept from myself and what I don't accept from myself. And it's all like stated. It's very clear.
If you want to make a change, you have to change your vision of who you are. You have to begin telling yourself a different narrative. And the narrative you tell yourself about yourself is everything. And if you tell yourself that you're a scared, undereducated kid from Tacoma whose family has never accomplished anything, let me tell you what you will become. A scared, undereducated kid from Tacoma who never accomplishes anything, because that's what you believe. You tell yourself that story enough, and it will become real. But on the flip side, you could tell yourself a story of you're a learner. You learn faster than most people. You're willing to put in more work than most people. You're willing to read more books than most people. You're willing to spend an inhuman amount of time every day improving your mind simply by getting new ideas into the system. And that you will admit that you're wrong faster than anybody else, that you won't let your ego get in the way. And you tell yourself that story over and over and over. So when somebody comes and tells you how stupid you are, that you're just a dumb kid from Tacoma, you go, you're right, that's amazing. Thank you for pointing out that flaw, because now that I'm aware of it, I can improve it because I'm the learner. And once I switched my narrative to being the learner, it didn't matter where I started, it only mattered where I was trying to go. And as long as I had that clarity, then I could execute because I believed I could do anything I set my mind to without limitation.
For 8.5 years, I'm doing that. I am working 7 days a week, ignoring my wife. At about the 6.5 year mark, my wife pulls me aside and says, "You're now damaging our marriage, and I'm not willing to continue like this." So I was like, all right, something's got to give. And that forced me to really look and say, I'm profoundly unhappy, and showing up every day chasing money just isn't actually who I am. And I need to do something that makes me feel alive in the moment. So it ends up being a cool part of my story, but what I want people to know is when the following thing happened, I was awash in shame. And so there I was, the guy going hard. By this point, I've worked my way up now. I'm the chief marketing officer of the company. I own 10% of it, all just through sweat equity. They made good on their promise. And I was so broken inside and so unhappy that I was like, I have to leave. I need to go back to filmmaking. I need to do something that in and of itself, like I will love and be passionate about. And what I realized was the struggle is guaranteed, the success is not. Now, at that time, I was a multimillionaire on paper, but as you well know, being rich on paper is very different than having money in your bank account.
No doubt about it.
So I was rich on paper, I did not feel rich, and so I was like, what am I doing all of this for? So my wife and I talk, and I'm like, look, I know I promised I would make you rich, and I swear to God I will one day, but I'm gonna have to take a step backwards first because I can't just muscle through like this. I'm just losing so many years of my life. I need to do something that if I'm gonna fail, at least I'm gonna fail loving what I'm doing. She was totally behind me. She said what are now famous words in our marriage. She said, I bet on you. I was like, that means a lot. So I go in and I quit. And I said, look, here's your equity back. I'm not gonna cross the finish line, so I don't think I should get anything for this. So, take it and do your thing. And I'm gonna go to Greece. We were gonna move to Greece, and I'm gonna write, and that's that. And they said, look, we could do this without you, but we don't want to. And so what would it take for us to keep working together? And I laid out a plan of, if whatever I'm gonna be doing next, it's gotta be around value creation, It's got to be around passion. It's got to be something that we would love every day, even if we were failing. I want to build community. I want to be myself. And I said, look, this thing that we now call social media, wasn't called that back then, but social media, I think it's going to change everything.
What year is that?
This is 2009.
Okay.
So I'm like, I think this is going to change everything, going to change the way that people do business. And actually, this probably was a little bit earlier than that. So the next company, I want to be transparent. I want our real personalities to shine through. I want people to see, like, we actually want good things for them. Yeah. And so that, for 3 very different reasons, became the core of what we wanted to do. And so we founded Quest Nutrition. Everyone told us we were crazy, that we were leaving technology, like the place where people actually get rich, and going into food, the place where you're in manufacturing, it's going to be small margins, you guys are never going to survive this. And so everyone thought we were dumb, but our thing was, we're never going to make decisions based on profitability again. We're going to be making it based on, like, actually adding value to people's lives, being passionate about what we do every day, and loving our lives. And so we actually made a promise to each of us, and we said, you're going to enjoy what you do on a day-to-day basis, simple as. And so if it's something weird, like when I started doing Inside Quest, fine. Like, even if it's not, like, we don't see the immediate ROI in the business, if you love it and that's a part of what's making you a complete and full human being, then let's do it. And so we got into really crazy stuff, but ended up being amazing. Because we made that promise to each other. So that was how all of that began, and then we just really lived up to it, about value creation, about not just trying to sell people on something, about building a real community to uplift people, and it just so happened that we had the right product at the right time, marketed in a totally new way. Because of my background in film, we were creating all of our own content in-house. We built an entire studio inside the company. We were shooting everything long before that was like a thing. It was like, we were doing that, and everyone was like, this is crazy. But then we grow by 57,000% in our first 3 years alone in manufacturing.
That's nuts.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Lewis Howes, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
This is something you taught me, is about really being unattached to the outcome, like being unattached to whatever it looks like, and knowing that if I keep focusing on my heart, if I keep focusing on giving, if I keep focusing